5.94 last year. We held up the stopwatch, and I have the stopwatch still here, still stopped at that time of 5.94, and autographed on the back by the man sitting to my right when he was here last time. He is none other than four-time Olympic gold medalist and the man behind Michael Johnson Performance, Michael Johnson himself. Good to see you, MJ Gold. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you, Rich. That was good last year.
Okay.
You got my attention. I've been watching you for years, but that was good last year.
I got your attention.
You got my attention.
What in specific got your attention?
I thought that, as I told you before,
Yes.
I thought you were much more efficient last year than I had ever seen you before. And that is really the key at the end of the day to running a fast time. Guys are fast, but the more efficient you can be, because it's all about movement, the more efficient you can be and the better you can displace power, the faster you're going to run.
Yeah, because I remember you were here last time and you were talking about my foot was too flat or something like that, that I wasn't displacing enough power.
Right. So what first got my attention is that you were much more efficient. And then, of course, the first thing I start doing is what could we improve?
Okay.
And yeah, so in that drive phase, when you first come out of the blocks, you want to get away as quick as possible. That's your opportunity and your only opportunity in the entire 40-yard sprint to put power back in a horizontal type of motion where you're actually able to propel yourself forward.
Right.
But you sort of rob yourself of that when you get flat-footed. So now, after that great start you got, it's almost like now you're putting the brake on. So it's like, got the acceleration on, but when you get flat-footed, now I'm pushing the brake. Now I'm accelerating, now I'm pushing the brake. You want to be acceleration with every step. Accelerate, accelerate, accelerate.
So how do I do that?
Come to Michael Johnson Performance.
Who is coming to Michael Johnson Performance this year? Who do you got?
Yeah, we've got our normal. We limit our class size of our combine guys to 20. So we got 20 guys, and then we've got another 40 guys, just pro day guys that are all getting ready for their pro days. So we got about 45, 50 guys. Got some Baylor guys in there this year. We got Tim Williams from Alabama. We've got a couple of guys from UNC, got a couple of UCA.
So when they come, obviously, with me, you've got a speed-challenged individual, somebody who's running in a suit, somebody who's in his, gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say these words, late 40s. With these guys, when these combine kids, Michael Johnson, come to Performance, what needs to be honed for these kids?
Yeah, I mean, what we've recognized over the years, over the last 10 years of training guys for the combine, is that they're not going to play football when they get to the combine. And they're fantastic football players. And what we've got to do over the 7 to 8 weeks that we have them with us is we've got to teach them some new skills. They're great athletes. And what great athletes will typically do when you put them in any situation where they've got to be athletic, whether it's bench press for reps or whether it's 5-10-5 drill for a time or 40-yard dash for a time or vertical jump, we rely on our athleticism. That's what great athletes do. But in this particular situation, you want to make sure that you take that great athleticism and lay that over the top of great technique, because that's how you're going to get your best performance. So we know they're great athletes. We're not going to try to 40-yard dash is a great example. We're not going to try to increase their foot speed in 7 weeks. You can't do that. But what you can do is make the athlete more efficient by teaching him how to start in the most explosive and the most effective way to get away from the line, get down the track. Same thing for vertical jumps, same thing for broad jumps, same thing for 5-10-5. It's all about teaching them the skill to be able to harness that great athleticism and then produce their best time.
Michael Johnson Performance, right here on the Rich Eisen Show studio. How fast did you run the 40? Obviously, you were not measured in 40 yards, but how fast could you have run the 40, or would you have run the 40?
Never ran the 40.
Come on, not once?
Not once.
Because you were dealing with metrics? You were not dealing with yards here?
We're dealing with distances greater than 40 yards.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, when you...
So how fast would you have been able to do it? Come on.
I think, so my 200-meter world record was 19.79 seconds, right? So in that, you got to remember, I'm coming out of the blocks, which gives me a huge advantage.
Sure.
But, yeah, probably down around 4 seconds.
You'd have run a 4-second 40-yard dash.
Yeah. But, again, I'm coming out of the blocks, which is an advantage.
Sure.
But then I'm also the fastest in the world. So, I mean.
That's an advantage, too.
But that was, when people talk about, football speed is one thing.
Yeah.
Track speed is a completely different universe. And the two aren't even comparable. I mean, you're talking about athletes that, not football players who decide, yeah, I'm going to go out here and run the 40 or have to run the 40 for a combine or just to test themselves. This is what they train to do every day. Usain Bolt probably will run the 40 yards in 4 seconds flat, if not under 4 seconds. I mean, because that's what he does. That's his job.
A sub 4:40.
Yeah.
For Usain Bolt.
Absolutely.
Now, you know how many times I'm sitting next to Mike Mayock during the combine coverage, and he goes, "This is a track guy. Let's see how fast he can run." And we get like a 4.5 or sometimes a 4.40. Is it because these guys are used to running out of blocks, and now it's difficult for them to run a 40 in this manner, where they're just basically squatting and getting off the blocks themselves?
The 40-yard dash is really a measure of quickness more so than a measure of speed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a track guy, he understands the fundamentals, but a track guy, even though he might run a 4.5, and you got some football guys that might run a 4.3, the shortest distance in track is 100 meters. You put both of those guys in 100 meters, now the 4.5 track guy is probably going to run much faster than the 4.3 football guy, because it's about speed, and that's what track guys are all about. It's about the speed over the minimum distance, whether it's 100 meters or 200 meters. They have quick. Some of them will have a quick start. Some of them won't be as quick. But, comparing a football guy to a track guy over 40 meters isn't really a fair comparison. You compare them over 100 meters. So. But we get a lot of track guys that come in, and they're much easier to train for the 40 because they understand the fundamentals. You can take that block start and translate the same sort of mechanics that are required out of a block start to a three-point start, and that's something we'll be working on.
We being you and I?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cannot believe I'm going to have an hour-long workout with Michael Johnson after the show's over.
Well,
pressure's on, Rich.
What's your fastest? Where are you fastest at in the 100 or 200, Michael? Like, what distance? From what point do you accelerate the fastest? Because most people don't get going for the first 20 to 30 yards.
Yeah.
Where were you the fastest?
So as a 200-meter, 400-meter sprinter, I was faster once I got going. I didn't have as explosive of a start as some of the 100-meter guys. So in the 200 meters, a lot of the guys that I competed against, they were 100-meter specialists. So they would get out faster and quicker than I did. So take, for example, the first 40 meters. They might be quicker in the first 40 meters, but once I get going in terms of just maximum speed, I'm faster than them. And then I can hold the speed longer. So at the end of the race, which is where it's really, that's what really counts, is at the end of the race, who crosses the finish line first, I have the advantage because I can hold the speed longer and I can reach a higher top speed. So again, and that's the difference between what we're talking about with track is how fast can you cover that distance when it's a distance that requires you to maintain the speed. Whereas in the 40, we're just talking about how quickly can you get up to speed. That's what that really is a measure of, is of quickness and acceleration.
Well, I got up to 20 miles an hour last year.
That's pretty good.
How about that? I could have been ticketed in certain zones in the United States.
School zones. School zones.
You be careful in school zones, Rich.
Yeah.
That's where I thought you were best last year. I mean, there wasn't a lot, and we talked about this. Your maximum velocity, once you got up and into your running, was pretty efficient. One of the issues is you want to reach though. So a lot of your mechanics are on the front side. But in order to produce power, you got to produce a lot of backside mechanics, and that's where you actually will get a faster top speed.
It's great. I got to be honest with you. Backside mechanics was my nickname in high school. Very good at that. We'll take a break in 60 seconds. We're back with Michael Johnson. I want to ask you a couple more questions. Chris Johnson said something on the show about how he could beat Usain Bolt in a race. And we'll ask you a couple more questions about my goal making for next week.
That's an important
Michael
part
Johnson back here in a minute here on the Rich Eisen Show. I once ran the 40, and Deion Sanders ran it as the character Leon Sandcastle one year.
Yeah,
with the big afro. You remember?
Yeah.
He backpedaled and stayed with me stride for stride for the last 20 yards. Rumor has it that he ran a sub 4.240 when he was at the combine. How fast do you think Deion Sanders was?
Do you think? Deion was quick. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he was a great track guy at Florida State. I think one time he came over from baseball, and there's a story that he came over from a baseball game because he played baseball, of course, and came over to a track meet that Florida State was hosting. ran the 100 meters, won it, and went back over and finished the game. I mean, he was a good. He could have been. I believe Deion probably could have been a world-class track athlete.
What about Bo Jackson? Do you think he could have done it?
No.
Why?
Bo was quick, but I don't think that Bo had the sort of top-end speed that like a Deion Sanders had. I mean, Bo was an amazing athlete, but I don't know that he had the sort of top-end speed that Deion had.
So who would be the fastest athlete from non-track sports that you've seen just watching or actually saw eyeballed yourself, Michael Johnson? You think would be the fastest?
I mean, for football, I mean, he's a track guy, though, but we trained Marquise Goodwin a few years ago. But he's a long jumper, not necessarily a sprinter. He's a world-class long jumper, made the Olympic team in 2012 in the long jump. But, I mean, super fast guy, 4'2", still with Buffalo. And I mean, he's one of those guys that's an amazing athlete, understands. He's just extremely efficient and quick.
Yeah, and you trained LT, LaDainian Tomlinson, right?
I trained LaDainian Tomlinson my first year working. The first year we worked with football guys for the combine, I had LaDainian Tomlinson, Freddie Mitchell, Fred X. Remember Fred X?
Yeah. As he also called himself, the Sultan of the Slot.
The best thing that Fred X ever said when the interview when he said he looked at the cameras and said, "I'd like to thank my hands
for being so great today."
Fred X.
Yeah, but LaDainian, LT, man, he ran 4.3 that year at the combine. Great athlete. Didn't really have a track background, but just, natural athlete. And one of the things, too, not to put any pressure on you, Rich, but one of the things about, training guys for the combine and to run the 40 is how quickly can they pick up the fundamentals. And there are some guys like Darren McFadden was a guy that I remember when he came in, if I said, hey, this is what I want to see, this is what you need to do, he could process that and then go out and just do it right there on the spot. And that's a skill that we actually test for that. We have a test, a company we use called Aptus. And what we do with them is test athletes for their learning style. And that helps our coaches to be able to understand how we actually get through to that athlete best and how they're going to learn best. Because we only got 7 weeks with these combine guys, and so our coaches want to understand at the very beginning, what's your goal? How do you process the information? How do I need to coach you? Because we don't have time to really get up to speed with this. We got 7 weeks to teach you new skills so that you can produce your best performance at the combine, and that's the process.
Michael Johnson here on the Rich Eisen Show. Chris Johnson was in that chair just a few weeks ago, and as you know, he's the fastest timed guy in the modern era of the combine, if you will. Deion says he was faster, and there's hand times from back then. But in terms of official times, his 4.2, 4.40 is the fastest. So he was here, and we had a conversation with him about Usain Bolt. I'd love for you to check out and comment.
Beat Usain Bolt in a 40?
I don't know. We tried to set it up one time, but, he didn't want to run the 40. He wanted to run the 60. So.
What do you mean you tried to set it up?
Like, we tried to set up like a race.
When?
It was years ago, probably, I think, my third year.
You and Usain Bolt, you would have run, and you just couldn't agree on the distance? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we couldn't agree on the distance.
Sort of like two fighters who couldn't agree on the weight class?
Yeah, he wanted to do the 60. I want to do the 40. So I agreed to do the 50, but they only want to do the 60. So,
What do you think right there? Would you understand why Usain wouldn't do the 40 and he wouldn't do a 50? Would you have done the same thing?
That might have been some fake news coming from Chris right there. I'm not quite sure. I mean, you could say that. I mean, I could say that I went to the moon and, I'm not quite sure all of that actually took place. With all due respect to Chris Johnson, I'm not sure that actually went down quite that way. But
Fake news.
I mean, look, Chris Johnson's quick. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he is one of the fastest I've ever seen. He ran a fantastic 40 at the combine. But I think that, over any distance, he's not going to be quicker than Usain Bolt. Again, because that's like saying, I mean, you never get track guys saying, professional track guys saying, yeah, I could go and score, I can go rack up 100 yards in a football game against, the best in the world. Why do football guys think that they can just come over the track and beat the best, not the best that there's in the world right now, Usain Bolt is the best there's ever been. Come on, that's a stretch. I mean, I know that it looks simple, right? As you're going to learn later today, and you've done this. It's not easy.
No.
Right? It's not easy. There's technique. There's race strategy. I encourage anybody, go out to your local track today, decide, hey, I'm going to run 100 meters, and see how hard that is. It's not easy to do, but it's hard to do it fast. You just can't go out and beat the world-class athletes in track and field just because you think you're good.
Well, go ahead and do that. Run your 40 and go hashtag #RunRichRun and upload it and donate to St. Jude, because that's what we'll be doing on the NFL Network next week. All right, Chris Johnson was here. We've got Michael Johnson. Michael, before I let you go, sir, because you're going to head to the spot where we're working out first, what do I need to do mentally? Walk me through my goals. What goals should I have here?
What's your goal?
I'd like to run a sub 5:9:40. I'd like to shave another half second off.
Okay.
I'd like to do that.
All right.
5:08 and change would be phenomenal.
Yeah. So
Right.
that's the first
5/10 of a second
That's
off.
the first thing. Understanding what your goal is, committing to the goal and
Yes.
the work that's required to do the goal, to achieve the goal. So
What
that's
if-
the first thing.
What if I haven't done that to this point?
Then that means that we got a better chance. So if you haven't actually done that, we got an even better chance.
No, I work out, and
Yeah.
I've been doing my best to eat right.
Yeah, I mean-
I've got the suit picked out. It's all nice. It's Prada. It's looking
Nice.
good. Yeah,
Hey,
right now.
If you
Going
look
Prada.
good, you look good. You got a better chance.
Okay.
If you look good, you feel good. So no, I think, look, as long as you got a goal, we know what the goal is.
Okay.
We then will set about developing the technique. So we'll get out there today and we can make you faster.
I can't wait.
We can make you faster.
Thank you for doing this. And how can people check out Michael Johnson Performance? How can they do-
MichaelJohnsonPerformance.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there. We'll make anybody better. Any athlete, we can make you better.
In
So
Dallas, Texas.
We're
is
based
where-
in Dallas, but we have operations all around the globe.
all around the globe. At MJ Gold on Twitter. You got one quick
You're
one?
kind of doing a little bit of a crash course for Rich here. You're going to teach him for an hour, somewhat what you do for these athletes over 7 weeks. Does the other side of it ever come into play? Did GMs ever come to you and ask you how these guys train, who studied hard, who was a natural, who wasn't? Like, if I'm a GM, I kind of want to come to you and say, what gives with this guy? What have you done for him?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll have guys that, once they've been drafted, because we've got relationships with the teams, we do rehab for some of the athletes. For some of the teams, they'll send us athletes for injury rehab. They'll send them to us for training in the off season. So those guys will ask us, kind of, what's the take on this guy, and again, when we get an understanding at the very beginning of how an athlete wants to be coached and how well they can be coached, based on the techniques. I mean, it goes both ways. It's not just, you hear about, is this athlete coachable? Our coaches want to make sure that they understand how to coach the athlete. Anybody's coachable as long as you understand how they consume information, how they process information best. So we're able to take that same knowledge that we've gained working with these guys over that 7 weeks and impart that onto GMs and coaches.
I look forward to training with you today. I can't wait to train with you today. This is like bucket list stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
good.
like this would be
Well, that's
priceless
fun.
if it was available in a charity auction. I can't believe
it's
I got
true.
an opportunity to do this. And I love what you said about Chris Johnson. By the way, now I know where he got fake news from. Michael Johnson, he got it from season 9 of The Celebrity Apprentice.
You are fake news.
Right there. It's a blast from past for you.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.